driving the mikveh Erev Shabbos, and I want to listen to Rush Limbaugh, but for some reason the radio, the frequency isn't working so good. It's part of the perils of rural life, but it's still much better than urban life, that's for sure. And I'm thankful to live in such a nice place. Anyway, I was thinking I want to make a series of videos. This will be the first of the series about what it's like to be a wedding officiant, how I got into this business, what I enjoy about it, and also getting to know the mechanics of the business. I started officiating at weddings almost 10 years ago. It was November of 2007. I was living in Richmond, Virginia at the time. I had moved there in January of 2007, and I always thought of this idea, as a member of the clergy, as a rabbi, I could not only officiate at Jewish weddings, but I could really officiate at any wedding legally. Now the thing is, Judaism has rules about what kind of weddings are allowed to be done, but for sure there's nothing wrong with a wedding with two people who are not Jewish getting married, a man and a woman who are not Jewish to get married. And I realized, I could do it as the synagogue that hired me was struggling with funds, so I started doing that just as a fundraiser, really, for the synagogue. Wasn't going into my pocket at the time because I had a full-time job and they were paying me full-time, but it was, going eventually to my pocket, meaning I would give it to the synagogue, and the synagogue kept the money and paid me with it, basically, because, they didn't really have enough money to pay me of what they even promised. So that was the idea I had. Eventually, the work became part-time at the synagogue, and I was, allowed to then take on another part-time work, and so then I would keep the money from the weddings. And that's really how I got started. Although even before I was ordained, when I was still in college, I read about such things. Rabbis, mostly from liberal movements, who would officiate it. Not only, of course, an Orthodox rabbi cannot perform, and a conservative rabbi can't either perform a wedding that's intermarriage between someone who's halachically Jewish and someone who's halachically not Jewish. However, between two people who are not Jewish, what's the problem? And I saw such a thing that some Reform rabbis were performing weddings, even though they do perform weddings for Jews with non-Jews together. They were also performing weddings just for non-Jewish couples, and I realized, that's something I could do. And I always thought about it, wondered, is there anything wrong with it in halacha? I called a dayan in Borough Park, Rabbi Hager, who's a Kosovo Rebbe. I asked him, is there any problems? He said, no, there's no problem. Some people suggested maybe I should ask a shaila, and he's a big dayan, very well respected. And that's basically, even though I didn't ask the shaila because I've already been doing it for quite a while, but basically that's how I got into the wedding business. When I lived in Virginia, there was no justice of the peace there at the courthouse. Like in New York City, even there's a 24-hour waiting period. So what you could do, say for example, New York City, you can get your marriage license and then come back 24 hours later, or any time after 24 hours, within 60 days, back, wait in line for a couple of hours for a judge to perform your wedding. And other parts of New York, it's similar. Either a judge or a mayor or a town supervisor, town executive, county executive can perform the wedding. In Virginia, there are retired judges who perform weddings, but you have to make time with them, make an appointment, show up where they are, and usually you gotta go to their house to do it. The thing is, in Virginia, there's no waiting period. So Virginia is kind of like Vegas. You could get married literally from the time you get the marriage license until you get married. You could be married in 20 minutes. From when you start the application for the marriage license. I'm saying, the whole process could take less than a half hour, very easily. In fact, 15-20 minutes could be, and the actual wedding doesn't take that long. Depends how long you want it to be. So sometimes I would even meet couples at the town hall, the city hall, and perform the weddings there, and they even gave me a room to do it. I remember there was one minister, he would hang out there all day. Some said they didn't like that, but technically there was, that's how, usually I tried it a few times. I never met people while I was there, although sometimes when I was already there a wedding with somebody else that I made an appointment to meet, sometimes I would meet another couple who just wanted to get married right away, and that's what I would do. So that's really how I got into it. And then I realized, people would come to my house or meet me at the synagogue and I'll sign the marriage license. People would I would meet them at the park or at their home, and things like that. And that's how I got into the marriage business. Now in Virginia, you do have to register with the state. So the way to do that is you have to be ordained. If you're registering as a member of the clergy, you're ordained. You then have to also you have to show your ordination as well as a letter, usually from your local congregation, your church, synagogue, mosque, temple, wherever you serve. And it could be even, you could be an associate pastor or, a deacon, a cantor, things like that. You don't necessarily have to be the senior pastor or senior rabbi at the congregation. At the time, I was the senior rabbi in my synagogue, and that's how I got registered in Richmond. And so that's and then once you register anywhere in Virginia, at any courthouse in Virginia, then you are legal anywhere in the state of Virginia. Now, there's a question about being ordained online, which some folks do. And basically, if you find a courthouse that will accept your online ordination, and perhaps a letter from the same people who ordained you, then in that case, you're accepted in in the whole state. But you just have to find which place that is that accepted. Thankfully, I didn't have to get ordained online. I went to a real seminary for many years, studied, got ordained, and I was also actually a senior rabbi of the congregation, and so therefore it was quite easy in Virginia. All right, in future videos I'll discuss how it's like in other states where I've officiated, and other aspects of the wedding officiant business. All right, thank you very much. God bless, and please like, share, and subscribe.